Three words stopped every conversation in Washington. Three words that no Iranian official had ever said out loud, on camera, with the supreme leader's seal behind them, aimed directly at the United States. And what America did in response, in less than 5 hours, didn't just answer the threat. It may have permanently changed what Iran is capable of doing. Stay with me because the next 4 minutes will explain what just happened better than anything you'll read today. At 11:22 in the morning, Tehran time, a senior Iranian cleric walked onto live state television. Not a back channel, not a quiet diplomatic whisper, and spoke in plain declarative language. No if, no perhaps, no careful diplomatic hedging. He said, American bases in the region will not be safe. American naval vessels in the Gulf will not be safe. And then came the three words that changed everything. The American homeland. Not a vague regional threat, not a warning about proxy forces operating in the shadows. A direct, authorized, broadcast declaration that Iran's long-range ballistic missile program could reach the continental United States, and that the choice to hold back remained, for now, Iran's to make. The cleric was credentialed. The venue was authorized. Iranian state media carried the broadcast in full, without interruption or retraction. That means the speech was cleared, every word of it. And in Washington, when those three words landed, a room full of people went completely silent, not from fear, but from the immediate understanding of what the threat legally and doctrinally required to happen next. 4 hours and 17 minutes later, the American response began executing. If you think that timeline means Washington scrambled to build a plan, you're misreading how this works. The response wasn't built in those 4 hours. It was already targeted, pre-authorized, and sitting in operational computers, waiting for the exact trigger that just got pulled. The homeland threat pulled it. And here is the detail that tells you everything about how seriously that threat was taken. The strikes didn't originate from Diego Garcia. They didn't launch from forward American bases already positioned in the Gulf. B-2 Spirit stealth bombers lifted off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri and flew 11,000 miles round trip to deliver the message. That is not a tactical maneuver. That is a strategic declaration. You threatened our homeland. We answered from ours. The B-2 is the only aircraft in the American arsenal capable of carrying the GBU-57, a 30,000-pound bunker-penetrating bomb engineered specifically to reach hardened targets buried deep underground. Underground targets exactly like Fordow. The strike package was built in 3 layers. Layer 1 hit IRGC Aerospace Force infrastructure, the command nodes, radar systems, hardened communications, and ground support equipment that make Iran's long-range ballistic missiles operational. You don't need to destroy mobile missiles when you can destroy every person and system required to fire them. Layer 2 struck the headquarters of Iran's integrated air defense network, not individual batteries, the central command architecture that ties the entire system together. Iran's air defenses can still function independently, but their ability to operate as a unified, coordinated national grid has been severely degraded. Layer 3 is the one intelligence analysts are still processing right now. Satellite thermal imagery captured signatures consistent with large, penetrating munitions detonating below the surface at Fordow. Seismic monitoring stations recorded underground explosions matching the yield profile of GBU-57 detonation. Iranian communications immediately following the strikes showed patterns consistent with genuine emergency response. Not managed, not routine. Something happened at Fordow. Whether the centrifuge halls, the enrichment equipment, the physical machinery converting knowledge into near weapons-grade uranium was destroyed or only damaged is the question that will determine whether Iran's nuclear breakout timeline was reset by weeks or by years. That answer will take days to arrive. But the attempt was made. The first time in this entire confrontation, the United States struck directly at Iran's underground nuclear infrastructure. Now, here is the part most coverage is missing. Iran did not absorb the strikes in silence. Within 2 hours of confirmation, Iran's dispersed mobile ballistic missile launchers, the ones specifically not at known positions when American targeting was built, began activating. Iran fired between 16 and 22 ballistic missiles at American positions in the Gulf region. Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the USS Carrier Group flagship in the Gulf of Oman, 2 Gulf state installations operating under host nation agreements with American forces. Patriot and THAAD systems engaged. Not everything was intercepted. 3 missiles reached their targets. Al-Udeid sustained damage to 1 hangar and 1 support facility. No American fatalities confirmed. Injuries reported. Base remains operational. 1 American destroyer took a partial impact. The Aegis system deflected but did not fully defeat the incoming missile, shifting the point of impact from center hull to superstructure. The ship is damaged but operational. 1 Gulf state installation was struck, with coalition partner casualties. Iran's response was not symbolic. It landed. And then the president's word arrived. Not proportional. Conclusive. That one word, delivered through official channels and operational networks simultaneously, means something specific to every military commander who received it. It means, finish it. Phase 2 and 3 American strikes. Full air defense suppression, systematic elimination of remaining ballistic missile infrastructure, and strikes against the energy and economic foundations of the Iranian state that had been held in deliberate reserve throughout this confrontation are no longer in reserve. As this is recorded, they are executing. Every mobile launcher that fires to attempt a second salvo reveals its position in real time and goes immediately onto the targeting list. Iran's ability to threaten a second strike is narrowing by the hour. Meanwhile, the confrontation has metastasized across every theater simultaneously. Hezbollah in Lebanon received escalation orders and began firing precision-guided missiles, not rockets, into Israeli territory as far south as Tel Aviv. Israeli civilians were killed. The IDF launched a campaign not against rocket positions, but against Hezbollah's precision missile arsenal, storage sites, command infrastructure, launch preparation facilities. Lebanon is now an active military campaign theater. Houthi operations in the Red Sea hit their highest single-day tempo of the entire confrontation. 6 vessels targeted in 12 hours. 3 struck. 1 tanker is on the bottom of the Gulf of Aden, the first commercial vessel actually sunk in this conflict. Oil opened at $147 a barrel in Asian markets. Every household budget on the planet is about to feel that number within weeks. The global reactions are not ceremonial. China issued a de-escalation statement and then, more importantly, opened its emergency back channel to Tehran, the one Beijing uses when it needs to communicate urgency rather than diplomatic procedure. The message China sent to Iran is not public, but the context makes the substance clear. You just sank a tanker. You just hit $147 oil. You just struck bases in Qatar where China holds significant economic relationships. The chaos you are generating is damaging China more than it is helping Iran. That message, from the country whose oil purchases have been keeping the Iranian economy partially alive under the blockade, carries weight no American ultimatum can replicate. Russia, watching Iranian ballistic missiles strike American military bases, made a quiet calculation that the short-term benefit of American attention being consumed by the Middle East is being offset by energy market instability that threatens Russian oil revenues long-term. Russia is not intervening, but it is signaling through back channels that it would not oppose a negotiated pause. Every major European government convened emergency cabinet sessions through the night. The specific threshold that triggered them, $147 oil sustained for 30 days, produces economic consequences comparable to 2008. NATO called an emergency session. European pressure on Washington for a diplomatic track is at its highest point in this confrontation. Here is where everything now rests. The 48-hour window is the variable that determines whether this becomes the most significant military confrontation in the Middle East since 2003, or something that doesn't have a name yet. China's back-channel pressure on Tehran. Whether Iran's internal power balance has shifted from IRGC hardliners toward voices calling for a pause. Whether Omani intermediaries carry a signal from Iranian leadership indicating willingness to discuss terms, not surrender, not full American withdrawal, a verification framework, an IAEA access structure, something Iran can present internally as not being pure defeat, while giving the United States and Israel the nuclear constraints needed to justify stopping. Back channels are open. China is pushing. The Omanis are talking. But certain things cannot be walked back with a press release. Iran fired its own ballistic missiles, bearing its own military markings at American air bases. The United States responded by sending B-2 bombers from Missouri to bury bunker busters into Fordow. Those events are permanent. The deterrence architecture that governed this region before this week is gone. What replaces it is being decided right now, in rooms no camera can enter, by people whose names won't appear in any headline. Watch the Fordow damage assessment when it arrives. Watch for a second Iranian missile salvo. Watch the Chinese back channel for movement. Watch oil prices at European market open. Watch whether the word ceasefire appears in any official Iranian communication in the next 24 hours. Those 5 signals will tell you more about where this ends than anything any government spokesperson will say publicly. We update this analysis every single day as the situation develops. The next update goes deeper on what the Fordow strike actually destroyed and what Iran's real remaining options are. If this breakdown gave you clarity that you didn't have before, share it with one person who needs to understand what is happening right now. Drop your read on the next 48 hours in the comments. Do the back channels hold, or does a second Iranian salvo change everything? And if you want analysis like this every day, the kind that doesn't talk down to you, doesn't skip the details that matter, and doesn't wait for permission to tell you what is actually happening, subscribing takes 3 seconds, and it means you won't miss what comes next.